I
again,
know that's right. I'm excited to be here.
oh, we are so happy to have you and to bless our couch for the new year as our first guest of
I
the
know
year.
that's right. Yes,
I'm
yes,
so
yes. Thank
excited. So,
you.
if you guys are not familiar with Martha McIntosh, let me
Hey, hey.
introduce her to you. She's the fabulous. Martha, you have an actual engineering degree, right?
Yes, I
Like,
am. I am actually a certified engineer.
Yep.
Yes.
yeah, I believe trained engineer.
I know, right? Went to school for engineering and actually does do work. So I do work for the Anne Arundel County. So I work for local government as one of their transportation planners.
Listen,
I
listen,
know, years. And
listen.
Represent.
She is
yes,
doing the do, honey. And we are so
yes,
excited to have you on the couch this evening to talk about this amazing topic. So, if you guys are not following her and you really should be following her, I'm going to hook you up this evening and let you know why you should be
yes.
following her on Instagram. Because when I first thought about this topic, because this topic is so relevant for so many different reasons,
hmm
Martha was like the first person that came to my mind because every time I'm scrolling on Instagram, she just makes me feel so good about myself.
Mhm.
And it looks like it's been quite a journey for you in evolving into this new aspect. So I'm intrigued because you started out
Yes.
in engineering and now you are like doing the do with the styles and making us all look good. So help us understand, how was that evolution for you? What happened?
I think it just comes from the fact of, at some point in time, you're like, listen, okay, so what we doing? You're doing everything that that you're supposed to do, right? And then
Mhm.
at some point in time, you're like, okay, so what do I want to do? Let's
That
figure that
part.
out. We've done
Piece of
everything that
tea.
we're supposed to do. We sacrificed, and then finally, I was like, yeah. So, how about I want to learn how to sew? So why don't we just buy ourselves a machine? And then that's how it happened, like literally.
Wow. Did you know that you have this particular gift?
No, like when I tell you, no,
Wow.
no,
So,
it's literally is ordering a sewing machine and going, okay, okay, YouTube University, what's going
Yes.
on here? What we doing?
Why
we all,
you?
we all got a degree in YouTube University.
Okay, certified degrees out here. YouTube is
Wow.
your friend.
So, Martha, you have evolved into, so you started out just kind of sewing and enjoying the crafting on your own, but you have really evolved into this aspiration and inspiration for women of all body sizes, right? And so did you realize that this was something that was going to happen? Did you was that part of your reason for pursuing this particular line and for being so outward with it on Instagram, on social media, and showing us how you do the do?
I think to tell you the truth, I think it's one of those push and pull. you
Mhm.
know, when you are just trying to be your most authentic self, right? You like, this is who
Mhm.
I am. You know me for years. We're going into a crowd. I'm the one that's like, okay, I'm the cheerleader. What's going on? What you want
Mhm.
me to do? What you need me to do? Is there
Mhm.
anything I can contribute? And then it just so easily evolved. Like, here I am showing you what I've done for myself. And
Mhm.
then just the response from people in terms of, wow, I never would have thought someone who looked like you or looked
Mhm.
like me
Mhm.
represent in such a way to be so confident. Like, everyone always does this, you're so brave, you're so encouraging. And I'm like, I'm just being me.
Mhm.
And I want
Mhm.
you to be you.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong
Uh-huh.
with that. Like, when
Right.
did that become a level of just being you, all of a sudden being brave? And so that's the challenge, right? The whole, I just want you to just be you in whatever form that makes you happy and just run with it, and that's what it is. It's just, and encouraging others to do that too. Like, why not? Like, isn't that less exhausting?
Right,
Mhm.
right, right,
Hello.
right. So,
Yes.
so a question for the panel, like, do you guys believe that this whole sort of evolution of body positivity is a trend, or do you guys really feel that we're seeing a shift in that direction? because of people like Martha who are really just so comfortable in their own skin? Like, what do you guys think about it?
Ooh. Hmm.
I hope
I'll say,
I hope
I'll
it's more
say,
than a trend.
right. I think it started off as a trend, but I think it's
Mhm.
becoming even more, like Olivia was saying, like to Olivia's point. I think more people are just like Martha's saying, hopefully at least becoming more comfortable in the skin that they're in. And you're having more exhaustive options in clothing. May not still be the very best, but a lot more options in clothing than you did before. I think now they're starting to make things that are still very pretty in larger sizes, whereas before it used to be a little bit more just demure, just a pair of jeans, very simple, not necessarily so stylish. But the faultings of the fashion industry is that still it cannot be a one size fit all, and that's kind of where
Exactly.
they're still trying to go. So
Yeah.
Right, right, right. Yeah, and it's interesting because to your point, Trissa, I remember a little side note y'all may not have known about me, but I'll share on this platform. I was actually at one point exploring a partnership opportunity with someone else we went to school with, and we were actually going to go into the what's known as the plus size market at that time. And we realized through our research, well, she was definitely much more familiar with the market than I was. We were noticing that the idea of plus size clothing was really what they did was they just enlarged the clothes as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to, and what really stands out about what Martha does is that she gives you curves, honey. She gives you
Yes,
shape.
yes, yes, yes. Instead of just like putting a bath sheet or a sheet over you, it's
Yes.
like it used
Mm-hmm.
to be a big woman. You were lucky to find something that just covered up your body, not accentuated it, not made you feel proud
Mm-hmm.
about it, but just covered you up. And I remember like as a little girl also feeling that way because I never really fit into the little girl clothing. Like I just wanted to look cute like a little girl and I never did, right? It's like I always looked like somebody grown. And so I remember thinking I can't wait until I'm grown so that I look like I am, I'm grown and I look grown, not a little girl who looks grown. Um, but I think now when we talk about women and how it may be a special time in history where we are trying to be more inclusive of everybody and that has its own pitfalls. But I think it's beautiful because people are opening their eyes and we are being more inclusive and therefore it makes you have to acknowledge everybody. And that's, I think, what the fashion industry is doing. And what somebody like Martha is doing is coming into this space where we are acknowledging everybody and therefore creating things for everybody versus this one type of look, person, sound, whatever it may be. And so I think we're in a really special place in history where, for example, I'm gonna give you guys a great example. The other weekend I took my daughter to a little birthday party. We were all quarantined and everything. It was just the children. And they're Caucasian, the family's Caucasian, and the three little girls that are my daughter's age are white and like this big. Okay. My
Mm-hmm.
daughter's she want to be. Okay. She's 6, all of it. And at her age, I looked the same and was very self-conscious. She's 6 years old. I think I had my first diet when I was 6. My daughter has no concept of it. No concept. At no moment in time did she say, Mommy, they're prettier than I am,
Wow.
or their skin is lighter, or how come I'm not skinny like they are? And I just like had tears in my eyes. I was like, yes, Lord, we're doing something right. Like she's so proud of herself and she can see herself in so
She
many places,
is.
but she can see herself in so many places, right? It's not just
Uh-huh.
like one ideal anymore. So it's not triggering that for her yet, y'all. So it's beautiful. It's
that
like,
is beautiful.
Yeah.
That is
yeah.
wonderful.
I
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
I was gonna say I think it's a combination to your earlier part of your question. It's a combination of both. And I think it's just not weight. I think for
Mhm.
especially Black women, it's a combination of weight, color, hair, and then also representation. I think
Yeah.
all of that. Like
Yeah.
I recall my lips, right? So I'm 41. I've had big lips since I've known my and I used to be really, really ashamed of my big lips. I never wore color. I didn't start wearing color on my lips until I was in my 30s. And I just wore like regular MAC lip gloss. I was like, oh, I'm the shit. I got MAC lip gloss. I'm cool. I'm good to go. But because I didn't think as a dark skinned woman, I could wear red or a lady with big lips because this guy said to me one day,
oh, you have DSLs. And
Oh
it made
Lord.
me so, I was 16.
Wait. I'm lost. What does that mean?
That might be for episode 2. DSL is not what you want to call somebody message task with DSL.
Okay, y'all text me after.
Yeah.
Text me after.
So it made me so self-conscious about my lips, but now I'm 41 and I'm like, honey, people pay you thousands of dollars to have these lips.
Exactly.
And I've learned to love my lips. I'm saying, what you went to the dollar, what you went to the corner for, I was born with. Hallelujah. So I mean that shit.
In the
Rock them
basement.
bread, girl.
But it took a
And she
lot
rocks it
of
nicely.
trends that's going on now, but then it also took a lot of self-love, self-awareness, and then also seeing yourself. So
Yes.
I think it's a combination of both, but it's weights and sizes, but it's also I think it's compounded when it comes to Black women, especially chocolate sisters. So
Yes, 100%, 100%.
I think it's a combination of all of that because I've come into myself at 40 from natural to big lips, to thighs that don't separate, that never have, to a butt that's rotund, that's the rotunda, all of that. So it's a lot to take hold of when you're like 10 and you got all of this and you have no idea what it means or how to carry it, and you're objectified at an early age. So
And that's key too, also because it can also be generational.
yeah,
Because we get it from our families, right? We raised a certain way, and I know from my experience I've always been a big woman. Like I was a size 14, 16 children, straight to 14, 16 ladies. I don't know what size 8, 10, 5, 6 is. Those are all myths to me. That's just always been my life. And so when I have my children, I call, and Tris always, I'm like, oh, my giants. I have baby giants. My children take after me in so many ways, even in their size, to the point that the doctor's like, wait, what? How old are they again? I'm like, yeah, and that's how much they weigh. That's normal for them.
Yep.
Everybody's always like, so you have 9-year-olds. That's not what a normal 9-year-old look like. I said, well, those are the ones that 9-year-olds in my family look like. So it's one of those things of preparing that too, because what I didn't, I think more so after I had my daughter, that you sit down and you think, I don't want my child to feel the way I felt at 9, 10, when I'm not fitting the same clothes like my friends, when I'm not looking the same like my friends. And so is making sure that I'm raising, the next queen to be like, and I am raising like mini me. She literally, you can't tell her nothing. She's like, so I know who I am. I know I look good. I know my mom has made me look fabulous, and just to hear her at 9 saying that, I'm like, I'm doing something right.
Yes, you are.
Those are those things that we have to encourage even from now, because, what I don't want is going into a family's house and going, ooh, that child looking big. Not in my house, you will not.
Yes. Oh, now
so we talk about that.
Can you stay on that part right there? Stay on that part, because there are lots of we share ancestral background.
Yeah.
Show off.
Hey, what can I say, Vincent?
It is what it is. It is what it is. And so one of the things you hit on, such a key point, one of the things that traditionally you'll hear in our families and when you get together, West Indians are known to be very invasive with language and invasive with their hands, and they will touch the boobs and pat the bottom and say all sorts of inappropriate things. So do you guys see the evolution in our cultures as well as the American culture? Is this an American culture thing? Are we seeing it in the British culture? Because we're all over the place. Do you see a differences perhaps in the African cultures and how they view weight and body positivity? Like, what have y'all noticed in terms of the trends? I always felt like African women were just like, love me, feel me, this is how I am. You know,
If
like
we,
I
Yeah.
always got that from Nigerians and from Kenyans and
exactly.
South Africans, to just like
Yeah.
kiss to the
Like,
god.
yeah, it was like their size had no, and I actually experienced this in the South too. So for me, like the Southern Black culture was very embracing. I grew up in a mostly affluent white and Asian. And so I
Mhm.
was always very self-conscious. And I grew up a lot with my Mexican side of the family. So I just didn't look like them body wise or anything. And so like when I got to know African women, you know, especially Zambian, Nigerian, South African, and Black Southern women, it was like their weight had no effect on their beauty whatsoever. It wasn't a positive, it wasn't a negative. Like it didn't have the effect that I had seen over here growing up, that it meant everything about your worth and your beauty. So it was
Mhm.
really refreshing. And then that's when I became like, I was allowed to come into my own and be proud of who I was. It was absolutely amazing and life changing. I wish I had stayed, but you know, one step forward, 10 steps back. But you know, but yeah, that's been my
Work in
experience as
progress.
well. Yeah, girl.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because I can speak to the West Indian culture, which is really it's weird because the men love, like, you can't get more of a love, you more and more is what they want, right? They
Mhm.
love the
Mhm.
boobs, they love the booty, they
I
love the
need to
hips, they
move.
love everything, right? And then but then the
Chastity.
women sometimes will critique you, like, there's this
Hmm.
arbitrary line where you're too skinny, and then they're like, you need to eat something, they want to feed you all the
Mhm.
time. And then at
Yeah.
Mhm.
some point you cross over that arbitrary line where they're
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
you better
You're
watch out,
getting too
you're
fat.
getting too fat.
You're getting too fat. You can't please nobody.
I
You can't.
remember in
Yeah.
college, I had a episode of College 15, maybe perhaps 20. And I remember when I went back home, like everybody was like, "Are you pregnant?" I was like, "I'm not even having sex." What? I was just like,
I'm just
I
in
said,
school.
"Hello." Right? It was just always about, some line in which you cross, and it was just
Mhm.
so confusing to me.
Mhm.
And I don't know that I've seen that evolution in the West Indian culture. I don't know if you guys, how you guys feel about that. I don't know if you've experienced differently, but I don't necessarily feel like we've evolved as much as the African American culture when it comes to that.
Well, I think we're trying, speaking from, my experience within the African American culture, I think that we are trying. And it's hard to not when I'm not a parent, but I understand that it's hard not to project your fears onto your child when you're raising
Oof.
them.
Yes. Oof.
Yeah.
And it's really
Mhm.
hard not to do that. Like, I have a niece, and honey, you can't tell her nothing. I've always tried to let her know your skin is I want her to know that she is smart before you tell her she is pretty or anything like that, so that her worth isn't based in her looks. So I tell her that, like, if she does something great, I'm like, you work really hard for that.
Hmm.
And her hair, her afro can fill up this screen, and she will wear it. And then sometimes I get nervous, like, okay, should she like pull it back? Should she like wear some cornrows? Because I know how people would, not even
Mhm.
would, I know how people do judge, and she's 10, she's 11, and she's a thicker young lady, and she loves herself. And we try to embed that in her psyche before the world gets a hold of her and tell her
Mhm.
what they think about her. She'll have a
Mhm.
very developed sense of self before she steps out into the world without our safety net. So, but I find it sometimes hard. I look at her like, I know you're beautiful in my head. Like, I know you're beautiful, but I just want to be like, just put a hat on, put a headband on, like lighten up the look. But I can't. That's my fear for her,
Hmm.
and I don't want to
Mhm.
damage that. I don't want to darken that light that she has for herself, because she is beautiful. I just know how the world, not even how the world sees her.
Yeah.
I know how the world sees
Mhm.
me, and I don't want
Mhm.
her to go through that. But then
Mhm.
sometimes we stunt their evolution or their brightness based on our fears and how we've been treated.
Yeah.
So sometimes I just look at her like, go forth and prosper.
Well, I can
Yeah.
She's
touch
my
on
niece.
that.
I mean,
So,
hashtag count act.
huh?
No, no, I was saying I could touch on that, Chance, because my daughter, she's about to be 16, and everybody in my family, they're from the South. So everybody is, but I always stayed a small thing. I didn't get the hips and thighs till I had those 3 kids. And even then, I'm still a smaller size than all my family. But my daughter, she got hips and thighs for all of us. I just took her to get a bra size, and they said that she was in the triple D. And I'm still sitting here in this B cup, and I'm all like, what the heck is wrong with me?
Oh my!
Like, what the heck? My child haven't grown all the way, and she in the triple D, and they say she still ain't finished. She said, Mama, did you hear that? Did you hear that? They said, I'm not finished. I'm not a girl. If you don't sit down and get a cup that's covering all that, I'm
Put on a turtleneck.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm gonna put on these biker shorts. I said, baby, you not biker shorts. No, we gonna put on biker shorts and a long t-shirt to cover all that, because you got a body that's like a grown woman, and we want to still let them know you're still a minor. So
Yeah, I'm so glad you touched on that, Karen, because you literally read my mind. How do you guys balance giving them this confidence and the attention that they may not be ready for, because they're unfortunately, our development is oftentimes sexualized, and that's something that we kind of have to warn the young girls especially about. How do you balance the two, for those of you who have girls?
It's so hard, because like Daniela, I'm gonna be honest, that little girl's body from the time she was born, I was like, Jesus, like I think when I go and get my body done, I'm gonna tell my plastic surgeon, I'm gonna show a picture of my 6-year-old and be like, I want this body. So it's like, it's hard because we do it. Like I said, like I'm looking at her and I'm like, this is dangerous. Like it is just, it's absolutely beautiful, but I have no idea. I'm gonna have to put her in a potato sack. Like I don't know. I'm actually quite worried about it. And she'll tell me, she'll be like, Mom, my clothes don't fit. My booty's getting big. She doesn't mean it. And that, I'm like, yes, girl, it is. So fast, that booty. But I don't know, Karen, and how the rest of y'all, how do y'all do it? Because I don't know. I am worried that she's going to. I mean,
it's a push and pull.
Yeah,
It's a push
all
and
I
pull
can
for
say
me.
is, what do you do?
I said it's a push and pull for me, because I can go into my own experiences growing up as a very well-developed young woman, and trying to make sure, like, okay, I want to make sure that my child is also safe and understanding in the space that she's going to be entering. But I also need to be able to let her know that she is in possession of her own. And so therefore, hey, this is you. Embrace it in every one of these stages, as a celebration of just who she is, because I don't want it to just be the only definition, right? Because we always tell. I remember at one point in time, even with growing up, and the times that we didn't want to encourage a lot of children, just like Olivia said earlier, in terms of making sure that they know that they're smart, and making sure that that's what we're going to reinforce and stuff. But I think at some point in time, I'm like, oh no, we also got to tell these babies they're beautiful, because it is that thing that we have to tell our children they're the most beautiful things in the world, because I need them to be reinforced 360 degrees before they get out into the world. And these other messages and all these beauty ads and telling you and defining what beauty is, I'm sitting there like, yeah, I don't look like that, but you can't tell me nothing. So let's redefine what that means and stuff like that, and so that other people are not labeling what we are and how we define what beauty is, especially in the Black community, because it's different for us. We don't fit the spectrum of what these beauty standards are outside. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not here for that. Let me redefine what beauty means for me and those who I love and who I engage with, so that when our children go out, because our children look like us, right? They know, like, yeah, I'm not in your standards. That's fine, because I have my own.
Right.
That's fine. Because I have my own.
You raised a very interesting point about just how even our body positivity experience is still a different experience. Jamila Jamil, and some of you guys may know her from The Good Place. She has been tagged with being sort of the face of body positivity, which is interesting to
Mm,
me. And she responded to that by saying that that body positivity belongs to people who are not believed by doctors, who are abused in the streets, and
mm,
who can't fit clothing, who can't find clothing in their size. So if for those of you who don't know her, she's more of what we considered a stereotypical beauty or look or appearance. She is smaller frame. So it's just interesting, but she has a very positive outlook about herself, and she does have a great self-image. So, but it's still interesting that she is someone who has been labeled as a part of this whole body positivity evolution in the United States. Yet, she doesn't represent some of the classes that are the most diverse in body type. So it's just really interesting to see whether or not this movement really truly is inclusive, and does represent all the marginalized populations. So what do you guys think about that? Does this body positivity, does it have our face? Are we the face of this movement? Are we involved, or are we sort of, again, um, the appendage, the
We
add-on?
probably started it, but I wouldn't say we the face of it. We probably started it, but we we let everybody, all types, everybody from all over, embrace, love who you are by birth. You do not need to change your body or appearance for nobody. You love it, you like it. Hey, nobody else should not be worrying about what you doing.
That's
That's all I can say.
That's
Right,
right.
Miss Karen.
Well, you guys, before we start to wrap up, I want to touch on one more part of this discussion, which is the men. So Martha, you have a boy and a girl. How do you? Is there any difference in the way you approach your son? Do you feel that you have to make this particular distinction for him?
so is interesting, right? Because like even right now, today, for an example, his father is coming to terms to the fact that his 11-year-old son actually wears a bigger pant size than him, and he's having a hard time with that. And so, it's one of those things that you're just like, okay, it is a concern because, like a couple of weeks ago, we went to the doctor, and the doctor, um, who it was a nurse practitioner. It was the first time that this was not his normal doctor. Immediately said to him, "Oh, because of your weight and your size, these are you're prone to diabetes. You have you're prone." Like, she started labeling him with all these ailments, unproven ailments. And at the time, I had not taken my child to, I was working and stuff, and so he was sent with somebody else. And I remember I came back and I said, I would like to meet with you. I said, first and foremost, I said,
Honey,
Dr. No, look,
baby.
you
Oh
know,
Lord, she didn't know she was in for.
Yep.
like, I was like, wait, what just happened here? Because this is what happens. And he's a boy. And he came back and he was just so nervous. He was like, Mom, like, she's saying that pretty much he almost felt like she was telling him that he's about to die tomorrow because he's a big boy.
Mhm.
Right. And it's funny because I don't think I ever thought about it from his perspective as a boy, who, for me, isn't that typically the norm for us in terms of our boys are usually bigger anyway. And it never occurred to me because for me, I'm like, but he doesn't look obese or whatever the image of obesity is. But because of size and because of the differences of what normal standards are, that sometimes is not inclusive of who we are, right? We're not included in those standards. He doesn't fit in those standards, rightfully so. But if you look at him in comparison to everyone of his age in my family, he's the smallest one. So for us, whatever the industry standards are is not the norm for us. And for them to all of a sudden put all this on his shoulder of, at this age, this is what you're supposed to do, it really was eye-opening to me. And I had to be like, okay, we're gonna need to refocus what's happening here. And so it didn't dawn on me the differences for him as a boy dealing with this as much as it is a girl. and stuff until recently. But yes, there is a difference. And so now is me also be in this awareness, making sure that I also uplift him as much as I'm uplifting her, because it is upsetting for him not to be able to wear clothes that he would like to wear because it's not available in his size.
I
We
think
don't think
another
about
point to
stuff like
that
that.
is
The plus size man is, in this industry that is trying to be very inclusive, the voice of our plus size men is is not that loud, you know. And
Mhm.
so it's trying to find out, okay, how do we include them? How do we begin really discuss inclusivity for everybody?
Mhm.
So
I think to your point, Martha, the other thing to that is like the medical field judged your son immediately on his size. And my fear for our young boys is the justice system and police as well judge our
Yes.
kids on their size and their height opposed to their actual age. Like again,
mhm,
these are compounded issues that we Black families deal with when raising. It's just not a linear thing like, okay, this is your
mhm,
size and this is the only thing we're going to talk about today. This is the only topic that we're going to talk about until you're 10. 10 is the next topic. But when you're raising a Black child, be that a male or a female, it's like, okay, my son, these are the set of issues for you. My daughter, here are your
mhm.
issues. My son and my daughter, here are your issues together as a collective. And that's overwhelmed. If just thinking about that and seeing, everybody parent their children is very overwhelming as an adult to see parents go through that and how to teach someone how as a parent, a parent teaching a child how to navigate these waters at such an early age. Sometimes our kids lose their innocence way too early
Wait, oh, that,
because we have to prepare them for a world that
That won't
is going
see
to
them
be
as innocent.
that. Say that again.
They won't see them as innocent.
That part.
mhm.
Yeah, it's a compounded issue for Black families.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that certainly these biases exist in all these industries. And it's interesting because this whole body positivity movement was credited with a psychotherapist and an individual who was struggling with an eating disorder as of 1996. That's a lot longer than I feel like I've witnessed the changes. And it certainly sounds like there's still far for us to go. But at least we're making some changes. And it's so great to hear those of you who are parents that you're seeing the generational change. Boy, it would be great to have that mindset, right? What would life be like growing up with that kind of mindset to start out with? But it's good to see that we are making those changes. So thank you, ladies, for joining us this evening. It's been great, Mama. It's been so good
Thank
to have you with
you.
us.
Thank you,
Thank
We are
Thank you
Martha.
for
so,
having me.
so
Thank
thankful that
you.
you joined
Thank
us.
you.
Martha, where can they find you on IG? What's your handle?
So you can find me at Gotti Child, which is GARICHILD, on Instagram and also on Facebook and stuff. Send a message, like, follow, and stuff, and just join the conversation. There's a lot of fun.
Drool
Awesome.
over.
I do over all of
Yes.
her creations. And Martha, before we go, tell us why it's called Gary Child.
So Gotti Child is actually a combination of two words. I am of Garifuna descent.
I was
Originally,
gonna ask.
yes, I am. So I'm from Garifuna descent. My ancestors are originally from St. Vincent, and then we were exiled. And so my family is currently displaced in Guatemala, Central America for the last 200 years.
Wow.
So I also speak Spanish. I'm
You better
Garifuna.
come
I'm all
through, honey.
encompassing. So I am
That's
a
my
child
friend.
of Garifuna descent. So that's where Gotti Child came from.
I love it.
Fantastic. And speaking to our other fluent Spanish speaker on the couch this evening, where can they find you, fabulous midwife?
At This American Midwife.
Awesome. And let's go to your, well, I don't know how right or left, but we'll start with the one with the fantastic dude that's just like fierce in the front there. Come on, Hawk. Where can they find you?
I'm at Miss Chaz at Miss dot underscore CHAZ on Instagram.
Because it must be a doc, and we're gonna go real quick because we're running out of time. Where can they find you, Dr. Job?
TristaJob.dpt on Instagram.
Come on, what a touch. Where can they find you?
Like you said, what a touch.
I'm proud of y'all. Go ahead, Trista and Karen.
We got it.
On the handle of Healthy Bump Club. Thank you for joining us this evening. You guys have been fantastic. We'll see you next episode. Bye. We're out of here. Bye.
Bye, Martha.
Bye.
See when you step out into the light and you